and engage, maybe-ish, with the stream if we can find signal, it looks like.
Yeah. So, and today we're going to talk about some things.
I'd like to talk, well, tomorrow is inspiring. Tomorrow is a day for current democracy.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! Please go vote. That is going to be principal message from me today. Vote.
That was the message that was brought to me by the People's Party of Canada, like literally to my doorstep.
They said, just vote, damn it.
They said, "Are you going to vote?" And I said, "Yeah, wouldn't miss it."
Cool.
And they said, "Have you decided who you're voting for?" And I said, "No." And this was a few days ago because I haven't.
Yeah.
I got some time still. But I'm not going to be voting for you, I said.
Really?
And Kimmy Hoven said, "Yeah." So I'm Kimmy Hoven. I'm actually I'm actually the person who's running. I was like, I said,
"Cool.
That's very cool. I follow you on Twitter. Just do you mind telling me why you're not voting for me?" And I said, "Well, I don't find enough common ground between my beliefs and the things that you've spelled out in your party platform." Could you be more specific? Yeah, so you, while I appreciate many of the libertarian notions that you have,
Ooh, well done.
I find that your platform lacks commensurate responsibilities. Oh, very interesting. Be sure to get out and vote on Monday. Yep, I will. It was a very civil conversation. I really deeply appreciate that. I don't know if my message was heard.
Wouldn't be our first Kimmy in politics, though.
True.
Just putting that out there. Prime Minister Kimmy.
Oh yeah, was her name actually Kimmy?
Maybe.
Oh, it was Kim.
Was it?
But I think Kimmy is actually a Kimmy.
Oh, really? Like for
like
really,
Kimmie.
Not for like Kimberly or anything.
Well, it might be. I don't know. I didn't pick.
True enough. I mean, I'm not ad hominem here. It doesn't matter. Like, her name isn't going to affect how she does her job. I giggle when I hear kid names in adult positions. That's all. It's just me. It's a me thing. It's interesting though that there are in just because doing a show like this forces me into some certain situations, like learning that we have 22 parties that are actively running in this year's election. Not necessarily each equally or severally represented. Some of them are very regional.
I believe the Maverick Party is kind of regional.
The Maverick Party is somewhat regional. That was an entertaining. I started with "There's a what now," and then moved on to there are one of those now.
There's not one in Lethbridge.
No, so I was shocked. But honestly,
but there is one in Medicine Hat, Cardston, Warner.
Yes,
which is like the most weirdest gerrymandered.
But it works. I mean,
kinda. But I mean, geographically,
they're entirely dissimilar, though, in their social outlooks. I don't know. I haven't.
Yeah.
I've spent some time in Medicine Hat, but not maybe enough recently. But yeah, that was one. The Rhino Party's still out there.
Yay!
I enjoyed. I had to. I mean, how can I not just spend the extra? Reading all the other platform, had to read this one. Groovy stuff like. Most experts believe there is going to be an environmental crisis within the next 20 years. We at the Rhino Party think we can do better. We can make that happen in 10. Things like that. They're still on. They're about equality. So now, like before, they wanted everybody to have some of the coast, and they were going to draw the provinces east-west instead.
Oh, that's fun.
That was good. But now they decided to be more fair. They're just going to make every province and territory a rectangle like Saskatchewan.
Excellent.
Yep.
Why not?
It's
not the most ridiculous thing that's ever been proposed.
Surprisingly, no, right? Like, is it your chair or my chair?
I'm real tall today, so.
We should just, I don't know. No, they're the same height chair. You're just that tall for real, I guess. Oh, well.
I am taller than you.
That's true. That's a true fact.
My wife used to say that all the time. It's true fact, and I used to just really be really like cranky about it, And then Donald Trump happened, and then I really appreciated the notion of things that are true facts,
True enough. True enough.
as opposed to imagined facts, or fictions, as we call them.
Fact. Faction. Oh. Words.
Words.
Words. See,
Yeah.
Bryson Brown.
We'll talk. Bryson Brown, if you're listening,
One day, sir,
Someday
the world
we'll-
will be safe.
we would love to have you here.
And yeah. And then we can decide if what we're thinking is really wrong or just a little bit wrong in your ease.
Yeah.
I want to tax his professional opinion for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to tax everything because that's just what I am.
Yeah.
So
I'm
the
a commie.
communists are still our party, aren't they?
And the Marxist-Leninists.
What? You mean?
Those are separate ideals. I know.
Right? I know they are.
It's crazy to think of. Who
The
else?
Popular People's Front, the People's Popular Front of Judea. No.
The people. Well, you already talked to them.
I already talked about them. Yeah.
They were fielding a candidate. We don't have a Rhino Party. We don't have a separatist Quebec Party.
Nor do we have a Bloc Québécois party
Correct.
in Alberta. In Lethbridge. We do have an independent, though.
This is a thing that dawned on me this morning. I was sitting there and smiled quietly to myself, and I thought, there's probably enough independent candidates in each riding that if they each got elected, they would be the majority of Parliament.
But because they're not a party,
They can't form the government, but that is in fact.
well, they could actually. Somebody could be asked to form the.
This is where I would get to is the flying my banner of the coalition of independent members. And then we can have mottos like "Think global, act local," and go from there.
Yeah, I think that a bunch of independents has the potential to do some serious harm.
Yeah. However, I find
we'll
the
fast
people
forward to that topic in a moment.
I find the people, at least running for independence, aren't necessarily doing so for self-prosperity,
Nope.
perhaps self-promotion, but I find them to be at least the better educated of the voters, and likewise know more about the issues than most other actual people in parties.
Right.
Because they don't actually have to know about the issues, they just have to recite the party's position on those matters, whereas an independent candidate's more likely to look at those matters.
Right. Yeah. And yeah. I floated that idea of the coalition of independent members, but probably 30 years ago now.
Oh, for sure, easily. We've
And I was
been
like,
throwing it
we've
around.
been doing this for. It's like
It's a fun
and
idea.
it could actually be a party that has no single platform other than you are an independent member.
Which kind of brings us to Canada's fourth front.
The 49th parallel?
It took me some digging to figure out the name. But basically, whereas we have Conservatives, Liberals, the NDP, and at one point the Greens sort of made a pivot into that position of fourth front.
Briefly.
They
yeah.
would like to put themselves in that position as
Okay.
the fourth front. Right? I thought that's all right. But you shouldn't make me look for what your name means. Just marketing thing. I don't actually care what you call yourselves. It's just tell us why, like right across the top. If you've picked something like that, right? If you just say the Direct Democracy Party.
What do they want?
There you go.
They seem like a really single issue party.
They kind of do, but
ultimately, if they get their single issue through, then all the rest of the issues are everybody's problem.
Correct. As near as I could tell, I really in the title for today I put vague because there's a lot on each party's platform. Like somebody's platform had something about animal rights and how animals matter, and then they told us how they're gonna run slaughterhouses better.
I'm an animal. Do I get rights?
Yes, yeah. So, but that's part of it. Is
Can I get slaughtered?
You are in a position to be held to a higher standard because you're the one setting the standard. I thought that was very almost clever, but it's the same people that still, factory farm. It's a good job for somebody, and we can slowly just like the fossil fuels that exist now, use the ones we've discovered while we look for the alternative. So the practical approach to the green situation to me is not just shut all the fucking taps off right away. It's to stop coming up with new ways to use that stuff.
Or
come up with more efficient ways
yeah,
of
that'd
the
be
current system,
those things would be great.
and then make what you currently know about last longer and stop looking for new.
Yeah.
That would go far enough. That would meet everybody's 2030 and 2050 goals without really like having to shut anything down per se.
Yeah, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of buggy whip manufacturers who are like really pissed off. But
Yes.
the go-to on changing industry.
A brakeman.
Yeah, brakeman.
I'm a victim of two things that way. One, that's the you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up victim, and the job you prepared for all your life is no longer available victim.
Yeah, on the plus side on that front, and this is going to sound really flippant, but it's not really. You can be anything you want. If I wanted to be a female, I can do that now.
But I can't be like I can enact brakeman, but there is no caboose for me to go on the train down the track.
Well, not in Canada.
No.
There may be cabooses elsewhere.
I'm off to Belize or wherever, somewhere that still has something awesome and mountainous and
yeah,
steam
and
powered.
you need a brakeman.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Right, you still can.
I've got all my shots and a passport,
So you can
but
pass
like not a
the
shots
ports?
passport. But yes, a way to get past ports.
Shots.
That's
Everybody.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I had leftover meatloaf today. It was so good.
Nice. I like leftover. I have leftover meatloaf.
See, I debate just making gravy and putting it on toast as a different supper instead of lunch.
Yep. Yep.
That feels like voting in Canada. It's still meatloaf. I can put it under toast. I could put gravy on it.
You know,
I mean, there's some parts of it that I just would be like, oh look, that like fell off into the oil. I don't maybe want to use that as much. But if I just reheat it nicely,
it's like one of those.
I can status quo myself to death.
So the width and breadth and height and depth of the Canadian political system looks so diverse because they always show it inside this little box.
True enough.
But really, that's a zoom in on all the places you could be, and the box is like this big. And we live in this little tiny square, really close to the center.
So that was the other thing about the fourth front, guys, is it kind of got me that do they not know that they're one of 19 potential alternatives to the three-part dilemma.
Remember when
is that good math? That was good math.
It was.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I had to include
A three-part
them, but
dilemma,
no.
however, is really tough because dilemma.
I know. Polylemma.
Polylemma. Thank you.
Polemily.
You could just say trilemma.
I could, but that's very difficult.
Yeah. Trilemma.
Words are hard. Oh, what was the word I learned the other day too? Diagonist.
A diagonist. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, secondary protagonist.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, world.
Oh, it's like those
fun things we learned.
It's like one of those one-person dialogues.
Yes.
Or those two-people monologues.
Well, actually, the one-person dialogue is called an aside, because you're having a communication with the audience, but not actually another character. Whether the audience, is analogous.
Is that an that's an aphora, right?
Yes, yes.
If I recall correctly.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Some of the fun words are just so fun. Fun words.
Yeah, and it's interesting that
Timbre.
the words have these meanings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then politicians use them badly.
How about a word like energy? This is like one of the most abused words in my recent memory. It represents so much, unless you're actually doing like the science that involves energy. But this is where sometimes the words matter, and other times, like, please stop using the word that way.
So if we're talking about a decline in the energy industry, shouldn't we not be talking about entropy?
That's hilarious. I also enjoy the fact that let's just assert the universe is a closed system and entropy exists, right?
Well, I'm pretty certain that the energy levels
Local level entropy for sure.
Well, I mean,
Gravity is like a big part of local level entropy, though.
yep. Oh yeah. But there's
So speaking of entropy, there's an election on Monday.
and things are just going to grind to a great big halt.
Okay, the adverts. The adverts. Have you seen any of the adverts?
No,
for
I've
our
seen some of the
upcoming election?
proverts.
There you go. To me, it's all like, how did JFK get my spaghetti eating video? Last year, Abe told us he was 16. This year, he says he's 17. Which is it, Abe? This is how
That's
I
a
feel.
great call out.
This serious
School council.
Yes, yeah. This is how it feels all the way around, and just the if a political party wishes to tell me that someone promised something and then play the quote that says nobody wants this, which is not a promise made or anything. Don't. It doesn't work. I'm sad for it. So if you're watching us on Jess FM, you can engage with us. I think we've got
Yeah.
chat figured out. Maybe.
I think so. It says live one, but I think that live one means I'm watching.
You're watching us. That's pretty good. It's very hard to gain a following on a streaming audience, but once you get there, we can make money for Jess, and that would be great.
Every time I look at the screen, I'm not looking at the camera.
Oh gosh! But every time I look,
So I look at the camera, it's fine. Then I look down and I can see myself look at the camera.
Oh, but you're like far enough behind. It's
right,
fun.
it's very fun.
There's like a 3-part thing going on. Like we've got live feed, which is happening right away. Then we've got the TV in the background that's like a beat behind.
We start to look like Statler and Waldorf after a second.
That's so good. That's so good. I felt like
Hey,
getting
frog!
T-shirts. Oh, very good. Only the dirty ones come to mind like instantly, so I
Yeah.
won't.
So apparently, there's three. We'll call them mainstream political parties that have representatives in all the ridings. And it was for one of the parties a bit of a stretch because they had to get people willing to run in a riding that they would be willing to move to if they got elected there. Well, like the woman who's running for the NDP in the Northwest Territories, who has never in her life set foot in the Northwest Territories. She actually lives in Manitoba, but
So-
she would totally go there if she got elected. Or the one in Medicine Hat,
So I
who's
don't
never lived
actually
in
have
Medicine Hat.
I don't actually have a problem with that.
Nope.
Surprisingly, I thought like my instinct at first was like, that's stupid. Why would you move to the Northwest Territories? It's cold in the winter. But overall, the job position is as a Canadian representative, and if they can, and if the people in the Northwest Territory choose her to represent their,
They get what they deserve.
well, they would get the representation of the style of government that they're looking for by picking that person, right? Like that's the idea behind our system. That's why parties, it makes us easy to pick the person. That's why the independent coalition is as justifiable as direct democracy.
Yeah, or nearly direct democracy.
Well, I think direct democracy would be less effective because your average voter isn't educated, whereas
or
at
will
least-
or would take the time to make 100 decisions a day.
Quora. I would make a Quora thing if I was the direct democracy part,
Yeah.
guys. What's quorum? Like it's got to be like 75% quorum before shit goes forward. Oh my god. Oh yeah, 4 stupid voters. 80% quorum. I don't mean stupid. I mean didn't bother to look up the information pertaining to the issues they're voting on. Misinformed or uninformed voters.
I did my own
They may
research.
be
I
really-
did my research.
I watched the YouTube videos before I came here too, but I also checked out some news articles, things that end in edia but not always start with wiki.
I I had a discussion with a colleague at the college, and
collegial.
it was collegial, and this person said, if anyone in my family again tells me that they did their own research, I'm going to come back with, really, what was your stated methodology? What were your inclusion and exclusion criterias and what is the list of peer-reviewed studies that you considered?
There you go.
Have you ever worked in a level 2 or a level 3 lab what experiments did you conduct that were beyond reading literature?
This is
And it's like,
so I can read the literature of those levels of experiments, but I am without facility to perform them.
right. So, but secondary
yeah.
research is still good.
Yes,
But
yes.
you
But I
still
would
need a
have
methodology,
comparative articles.
and you need to have stated inclusion and exclusion criteria.
For example, this is how I determine if I should continue reading other people's articles based on their inclusion-exclusion criterion. Like, there was one on "Are masks harmful?" and they excluded all data that did not pertain to creating harm with mask usage. So from their initial outlook at 6,000 some things, they ended up with 164 that they could look at, because those are the only ones that presented harmful effects of masks. Now, they weren't out to prove that masks were harmful. They were out to determine what harmful effects could come from masks. So I understand that. But like, if you're not reading carefully, you'll be like, well, they're not even looking at the 5,000 times they do work without harm. No, that wasn't even their intent of...
Right, but we don't. A lot of people
Right.
don't read that. They just cut to the piece that they want.
And
Yay!
then as I got that far, I thought, how many people actually got this far?
Yeah. So, I'm the same way with party platforms. I'm the same way with political party advertising. You say, well, Joe Bloggs said this.
No, they give me the date stamp, and so I'm like, no, contextually, no.
Well, yes, you said those. Like,
I mean, he said those words,
I once
but
said.
he's not saying what you said. He said.
Yeah, I've said a lot of things. Like one day I said, "K," and a different day I said, "T," and somewhere else on a different day I said, "un," and so I actually did.
See that.
and somewhere in all there, I have said "C-ton," and it's true, I did, but all out of context and all at different times.
No, he wasn't claiming he went to that prodigious school.
Yeah, no, different C-ton.
Ah, very good. Although the
Right.
people there. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, you might have said this, but check the context.
Yep. That's
Maybe.
a big one. That's
Right?
a big one. It's actually super easy to do. It really...
Almost like there was like this giant repository of all the things that were ever recorded, almost.
It's and now, because in their efforts to make it, wantable by you so they can slam you with the adverts, they've given you cool new features like reverse image searching.
That's fun.
That is a fun one. You're like, where'd they get that? Oh, cool, right? Like, brain explodes. You're like, oh, those cheeky bastards.
Cheeky.
So someone commented that the leader of the Orange Party would actually like to be in charge of the Blue Party, and the rest of Canada would like that too, because then we'd have a responsible Blue Party.
Yay, blue.
But I mean,
Well, if we had the
'Cause
blue
part
and
of-
if we
part
had the
of-
blue and yellow party, maybe they could like make a coalition. We'd have a green party, but then we'd have to run primaries.
and have purple parties.
No purple parties.
Oh, okay. So on Al Jazeera, there was a good editorialized thing. A guy, he's just not. How do I put this? He's like a Canadian writing for Al Jazeera. He doesn't like our current leader, but he doesn't really think any of the other leaders are really better. You just might pick someone that could be worse, so be careful. That was his opinion of politics in Canada is very pedestrian, he said. Canada, in and of itself, because of its leadership, is pedestrian.
Yep.
I couldn't really disagree.
Yeah, I actually, I'm on board with pretty much all of that sentiment, like
Yeah,
from
yeah.
tip to tail.
Yep. So I was just, it was nice to know that if you're wondering what the rest of the world thinks about this thing going on in Canada right now,
It's a yawn fest.
it's kind of a yawn fest. We should be worried mostly about climate, as far as the rest of the world's concerned, since we have the oil. And
Yep.
so we should be really careful and maybe responsible. That's basically my takeaway from my minuscule bits of comparative research. Because I like doing that. I like seeing what we think of ourselves and what do other people think of us.
Yeah, I think in the
Where I hope to get to.
well, and I've done a little bit of light reading, just here and there, just to make sure that I'm not completely stupid about all of this. I might be a little bit stupid. These things happen.
I want to pretend I'm not, but there's just so much to read, and I'm only the one me.
I am.
That's where we dialogue.
Yes.
We can learn little extras.
Yeah, so I still stand by my regular default position that as a parliamentary democracy, while parties are a nice convenience, I don't think that they are the ultimate should be the ultimate determinant of my voter selection. I really believe that you should elect somebody who, on behalf of the area where you live, can go to Ottawa, or in provincial politics, Edmonton, or in civic politics, to City Hall, to make the best decisions for all of us, not just us here.
No,
Like,
yeah. No,
it is right.
for the level at which they are elected to governance.
Yeah, so
So any councillor should have all of Lethbridge at heart. Any
yeah,
MLA
and it
should
actually
have
says so
all
in the MGA. So any MLA should have
all of Alberta.
all of Alberta in their decisions, not their riding, the whole place.
Agreed. And so I guess, but that's the cross the floor plan in my head. So I think the party is in that position, and that's why I've picked them, because I think that as a party they're trying to represent that direct electorate body, and so they should be aiming for those goals that they've announced.
Yeah.
And if they fail, then I think it is up to my member of parliament, MLA, councillor to cross the floor, as it were, to make the protest known. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
or stand in independence.
Yeah. While I appreciate from the perspective of some Quebecers, the Québécois and Québécoises, that the Bloc is a preferable choice for them, I do not find them palatable for me, because their express intent is not to make the best decisions for all of Canada. Their
Correct.
expressed intent is to make the best decisions for Quebec, and that runs counter to my things. Like the Maverick Party or the Western Separatist Party or
So the
any
Maverick
of those
Party
ones.
isn't actually a separatist party.
That's why I said or.
Yeah.
Right.
The one thing I was thinking about, do they fall into the
They are regionalist,
but
to the best of my understanding.
in I believe in the sense that they feel the region they represent is only underrepresented.
Right.
And thus, if to almost unironically counteract some group like the Parti Québécois, who would destabilize our parliament by creating a party that doesn't care about Canada, they would at least do their best to defend Western Canada against the uncaring portions.
Let me throw this out as a terrible idea.
For sure.
That I've given about
I just
almost
saw the light bulb go on, so let's hear it.
almost 30 seconds of thought to. So suppose that we were to just send people to the Alberta legislature, and then every legislature across Canada gets to send like 10 people
I wish.
to Ottawa. Right?
That would
and
be-
they're sent proportional by how they're elected in the province. We'd end up with like 100 and what is that, 130 people? Although we would have like the entire of Northwest Territories legislature going.
Yes.
So there's
Well,
maybe
what else
some
are they
problem with
doing
that.
day? Well, that's where the minimum number is a problem, or by percentage in terms of those systems, because Prince Edward Island gets as much representation as Alberta in terms of seating arrangements, right?
Yeah.
Per population, etc.
Sure. It's
overrepresented by population.
I know there are a ton of problems with this. I get that, but I think like something like that reduces the voting burden, but maintains the diversity
And the regionalism.
and it maintains regionalism. It does put an additional onus on a member of the Legislative Assembly to actually,
Because you wouldn't have to select from the members of your legislative assembly, right? Like, let's say I form the party in power of government. Now, I probably will pick someone who has been elected as a cabinet minister. I don't have to. It just seems proper that you would pick
Yeah.
an elected
Oh, yeah.
person
Like
to do that.
literally,
But, like,
Jason Kenney could have picked me to
Yes.
be the minister of.
we could have just grabbed like
Silly
a
walks.
proper accountant to be our finance minister. We could have
somebody
done that.
with actually some financial
Or
accounting.
yeah, how about somebody with a master's in finance?
Or how about somebody with a background in health as a health minister,
That would be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
or a background in education as the education minister,
Eh.
or
Oh, wait. Yeah. What a weird idea to have. I mean, but like maybe then, if that was the case, you might actually find that diversity in your party, and select members of your party that have those qualifications and use them in those positions. I mean, start there first, and then maybe invite people from different parties to show that you're trying to work towards a better province.
oh, Douglas Adams. Anyone who could
I
successfully
am
be
gonna die of an
elected,
ear infection, right?
anyone who could successfully be elected to a position of leadership, probably is not unsuited for leading.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's a
To
weird.
paraphrase.
Yeah. Fair enough. So we're like rolling
We are
halfway
halfway through.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
this is How Did You Get There on Jess FM, Jess TV, Roku TV, and a bunch of other places probably that I am not
YouTube,
aware of yet.
Facebook?
Oh, in the YouTubes and the Facebooks. I am Stephen Graham. This is Jeff Graham. And this is a show about thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, so that we can be critical of those thoughts, opinions, ideas, and beliefs, but not necessarily of those who hold them.
Correct.
Not necessarily.
All very true.
The opinions expressed on this show are those of us at the moment. We reserve the right to also change our opinion,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is like kind of the whole point of the show.
Like science, I will change my model.
I
given
will
new
s-
information.
I will spin on a fucking dime.
You bet. Like heartbeat, snap. I
You-
mean, I will hate that being wrong.
Oh, I hate being
Yes,
wrong.
But
But
I'll get there.
if you give me some good evidence,
yeah.
I will reconsider my position pronto. I have many demonstrations of times that I have done this. Yeah, so there are opinions. They're not Jess's or Jess FM or any of the related or unrelated or associated or unassociated bodies.
People with the name Jess can't hold them accountable.
Yeah, well, you can, but just not for what we say.
True.
That's just on us. And
Yeah.
we reserve the right to also say, "Oops, my bad."
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. That's our show. It's not over.
No,
that's
that's
what
just-
our show's about. And today we're talking about
If we were monetized, that would have been the commercial.
That's why I said it a little louder.
That's right.
Right?
We have to get full
Because the
spectrum.
commercials are always louder,
They're not. They're full spectrum noise.
which makes them louder.
It makes them seem louder, but the actual volume is the same. There's just more abundance of the same, like, because you haven't increased the volume. It just hits more of the same frequency, of different frequencies.
So if there's more,
but it's not.
the-
How can your TV produce more noise at the same volume, right? So it's just more frequencies are registering at an equal volume. It's still the same amount of hitting you. It's just on more places, right? I can hit you with 100 pounds, right? I can hit you with 100 pounds there,
Goop.
or 100 pounds slap on the side of your body. It's still only 100 pounds. It's just the slap on your side of body, 100 pounds, definitely gives you a greater feeling of that 100 pounds.
If I turn on the tap, the water comes out. Without adjusting the tap, if I pump up the pressure, I get more water.
But we're not pumping up the pressure in this instance.
Yeah, we are. That's what we are when the commercials get louder. Get quotes louder.
I guess your compressed noise theory, you and physics.
Oh, stupid physics. Right. So today we're talking
Gravity is a push too, by the way.
about. Yeah, the batting down angel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Earth is flat.
In spots.
Ish,
It's not
yeah.
wrong. I
True
mean,
enough.
generally it's oblate spheroid, but like
It's more, yeah, it's kind of this weird sort of.
It's not a
saggy
sphere,
Egg.
it's
It's like a saggy egg.
it's
a
like
little-
it's like I used to be. It's
got some junk
I'm,
in
a,
the
I'm a little
trunk.
bit less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a trunk anymore. I got a hatchback.
yeah. I do, but the elephant wants it back.
It shows off all the junk in the hatchback. So this show is a little bit about, is vaguely about Canadian politics, is about vaguely Canadian politics, is about Canadian
Vague politics.
vague politics or Canadian politics vaguely.
Canadian politics.
We just
is
put a lot of
vague.
vague in here because
This is a very non. It's the Canadian approach to Canadian politics. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
It's-
sorry. We're not
Just-
picking sides.
And we do love maple syrup.
Yeah. So,
It's all right.
I understand that the New Democratic Party of Canada still thinks it's living in Ed Broadbent time and is planning to be the third party. Like they're campaigning like they want to win, but they're promising like they're promising like they're going to be the third party.
Only 'cause the award of excellence sets me up for failure every time. So gold medal is second. What? All right.
Right. So, and this was a problem in Canadian politics. I think when Ed Broadbent was in charge of the NDP, and I really liked Ed Broadbent.
Fine fella.
Fine fella. Never met him personally, but he seemed to.
He seemed to hold many of the values I hold.
Yeah. But
Especially if I
every
was alive
time
in the 50s.
every campaign that I remember from that era, the NDP just promised to solve every problem. Every problem. If you ever added up what that would cost, it would be staggering by today's numbers. Never mind then.
Yeah,
But
zero inflation, horrific numbers today.
they didn't, but they could because they were never going to form the government. But they could make the conversation happen around the importance of those kinds of things.
The David Suzuki of politics.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just like sound a big alarm bell so people will at least have a look.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a different day. But there's the party still seems to do that a lot. And when they almost got elected that one time, when Jack Layton was in charge, when they almost formed the government,
Did they look almost nervous?
they did look almost nervous because they went, "Oh, dear diary, we may have to reconsider how we do this because we might actually have to follow through on those things."
We'll actually have to actually read this stuff.
Yeah, so
They
maybe.
still ended up having to read it because they were opposition.
Yeah,
Which
I'm
was
not-
a pretty good government.
Yeah, it worked okay. Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're the answer. I have a ton of problems with some of the ways that they want to implement some things. I align slightly closer on the social side and slightly farther on the economic side.
You know, a word they haven't used at all in this campaign? Socialist. Just saying.
Yeah,
They're like almost trying to disassociate themselves from that. I hope it works.
yeah,
I mean, for the outcome of maybe opposition again, because
Yeah.
they're shooting for this. Well, they're asking for the stars. they're kind of
they're shooting for the moon and hoping that they can stay in the air long enough.
Yep.
Yeah, so I like some of the stuff that they're saying. Do I agree with it all? Nope. But they're saying a lot of things that sound a lot like what the Liberals are saying, and the Liberals are saying a lot of things that sound a lot like the Conservatives are saying, because they're all shooting for the center.
Yeah. So
They're leaning out in different directions, but they all want to have
but the
one
boat
hand.
stays true.
They want
Yeah.
to have one arm right in the center there.
It does feel like hiking in a strong wind, right? Like you're leaning out for everything just so the boat stays flat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all doing that they're each doing that in their
Yeah.
own directions.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty okay with that because I think, by and large, most Canadians are mostly centrist.
Yeah.
In most political systems, most members of the public are centrist.
Yeah.
I would
It's like
wager.
the police. You really want them, but you don't want to necessarily have to engage with them every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that we have an armed forces. I also appreciate that we don't live somewhere where they have to be out on the streets patrolling all the time.
Yeah. Our armed forces aren't necessarily used that way internally.
Right. So
Which good news. Other reasons I live here.
So the hope that I'm holding out for is that we will continue to have a minority government. And I honestly really don't care which party gets the majority of the minority seats.
Which becomes the party in power, as long as
Potentially.
it's a minority government.
Yeah. So I mean, by the letter.
You're assuming of the big three, or
No, I actually don't care who.
as long as it's the minority.
As long as it's a
because
minority.
then they got to kind of get along. Otherwise, shit don't
Right.
get done.
And
Yeah,
if you go back and look at some of the
things don't get done.
if you go back and look at the majority of some of the cornerstones of Canadian legislation that we hold near and dear, many of us, many of those were enacted under minority governments.
Mm-hmm.
It took time, it took compromise, but minority governments got it done because it was something that was good for everyone.
Weird that we can drink on a voting day again.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
Weird that
but not
criminals
after
can
10
vote.
o'clock because the COVIDs will get us.
Oh, true. Yeah, COVID,
I was so surprised.
COVID's like rape; it only happens at night.
After a couple of weeks of not being able to buy beer after 10 o'clock at night at a bar, that COVID was still running wild. I thought for sure that that would have solved it because a politician told me that would be the case.
Well, that's yeah. Haven't you learned? The people that you've democratically elected can't be trusted because you chose them.
Yeah, we can't trust the politicians, which means we can't trust the people that chose the politicians.
Which is you.
We are idiots.
Yes. Like that's.
We just need to pick better.
Is it that, and also are we just trying to mitigate the damage because of all the crappy options? And then I'm stuck with, could I do better? I mean, sure. I just don't want to be the guy that has to. That's not a job that interests me. I've got some good ideas for someone that would like to use like 1% of them and carry on. Kim, maybe you're that guy this year. Wow. Yeah, I think it's sort of like I understand if we cut off the CERB, then people can have their part-time minimum wage workers back. I get it. It's really important for the economy to do that.
But one thing that we did see when a lot of people had
The money.
sustainable, well, not sustainable, but predictable income is that we saw improvements in mental and physical health and a stabilization of grocery prices and a whole lot of other great things happening on a social level just because people had a basic income.
I mean, what's 15 times 25?
250 plus about 12 said,
Yeah, 17.
yeah, a bunch.
17, 34. Yeah, I mean, you make maximum wage guy could almost match CERB income.
Yeah,
Almost.
almost.
But have to work his ass off for it. So it's not that people wouldn't work, it's just they don't want to work for shitty wages, I think, is the issue.
Well, part of the problem with the minimum wage thing is like that CERB and minimum wage come out to about the same. Is that
Of course, that's like in Alberta.
That's
And
in
CERB's
Alberta.
the same nationwide, where other minimum wages are higher.
yeah.
So the cost of living would probably be higher. So CERB isn't as good in other provinces. It's actually just a luxury in Alberta.
Yeah,
Not
luxury.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, comparative, right? Like, it's still shitty. EI pays ass less than CERB.
well, because EI is you get like 60% of what you were getting paid.
Up
yeah.
to a maximum, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Like, if you're 100,000 air or whatever, no, you still get the same that I got because I got max.
yeah,
And that would be a lifestyle change for one of those people.
yep, sure would. Yeah,
Be a good one.
that
That would fix. There's some things, just because we're vaguely Canadian political right now. Members of Parliament should make minimum wage of the province from which they operate.
Yep.
They should
That seems like a
qualify
good one.
for Canada Pension Plan in terms of their retirement package, because if they really thought about it, they could invest in their own retirement package, and it shouldn't be paid for by their workplace. That's not how the real world works, as I've been told. Not at the place I work. I'm not being bitter that way. Just other places.
Yeah.
I think that would fix a lot of the social inequality at the income level stuff.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Like if they actually had to save up their own pension out of their minimum wage job, I'd fucking love that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yep.
As opposed to working for 7 years and getting a full pension. Maybe I should just get elected just for that shit.
Yep.
Then, because I'll feel ass about it, do a lot more volunteer work or something, because I can retire after 7 years and just.
Do the thing. Yeah, that'd be cool. I have also thought that Nope, I've lost the thing I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, it's gone. Oh, EI.
Mm.
EI. Oh. Um, yeah, so if we ran, maybe we could have the government restructure the employment insurance program
Mm.
to work like insurance.
Yes. Yes.
Right, so it's a employer-employee pay thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if I drive my car into stuff a lot,
Mm-hmm.
my insurance goes up.
Yeah.
If I am unemployed a lot,
My insurance.
and that's
rate
on
goes
me,
up.
my insurance rate goes up.
If I'm an employer that.
If
burns
I'm an employer that
employees-
burns employees, my insurance rates go up.
But
Right.
not my employees.
No.
He's a good 4-year worker. His rate's still low. I'm a crappy turn over my staff because I'm a pedantic loser.
I lay everybody off for 6 months a year,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hire him back, lay him off.
And
hire
hire-
him back. Yeah.
then my insurance rates go up.
Yeah. That definitely affects seasonal employers.
Yeah, without
Like-
negatively affecting the seasonal employee.
Yes. I mean, yes.
Yeah,
I
super
already
simple.
have like little Quebec kids going across BC picking fruit, and some guy going, can't afford you this year. I paid too much last year.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Or the cost of my fruit goes up, which is, how any business actually should handle that situation.
Right. So
you're
if
good-
my
if your
input
good
costs
is
go
viable, you don't need government help.
if my input costs go up, I have two choices. I can make less,
Yeah.
or I can charge more.
Correct. That's yes.
And labor is an input cost.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I get it.
Do
It's
the thing.
just- That's the gripe that will come back. I mean,
And people I think that's a very probably, I'm going to guess, except for the insurance option where companies have to pay more. That's probably less attractive to, say, a conservative kind of government. But might be more attractive to a
social minded.
social-minded kind of government because but then it seems like it's penalizing, but it's not. It's penalizing people who just do shitty business.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I mean, because in the truest sense, in a situation like COVID, where layoffs were essentially mandated, the insurance company would not see that as you doing the firing or the employee doing the quitting. They are following government mandate, and thus doesn't affect the insurance rate that way.
Right.
Yep.
It's fine.
Totally manageable,
So-
very practical, implementable. Yep.
And
Good
you,
one.
you can actually probably
Good one.
you gentle listener could come up with all kinds of great ideas like this and ask your MLA or member of parliament about these kinds of ideas. And
Yeah.
if you had a
Yes.
really good legislative representative for whichever branch it is, whichever level it is,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would actually take the time and listen to you and possibly even discuss it and maybe even like return a phone call or return an email. And
Or
if
the
they
little slip of paper
it
tells me I don't need a stamp.
which particularly tells me that if they don't get back to you about any of the things that you suggest, even to say, thank you, I've received your idea, I don't think that we're ever going to implement that, keep in touch, right? Even a PFO would be fine.
Yes.
But if you don't get one of those, it suggests to me that they don't actually care about any other input from the area that they're supposed to be representing, and possibly they should not be reelected.
Just a hypothetical. Let's say I wrote them a letter, and I'm like, "What about this? Having to, accept this whole Bill of Rights that I have, based on its acknowledgement of the supremacy of God, and yet number 2 is like my right to not believe. The paradox that is my Constitution." But let's just say I write a letter about that. I write, "Hey, what can you do about this?" And you write me back a letter that says, "I'm really going to look into that and I'll get back to you. Thank you for your query." And you're like, "Thank you, thank you." And then a little bit later you get a letter that says, "Hey, yeah, I'm still thinking about that answer. Hang in there." Okay. And now there's like an election coming up, but like you're still waiting on the answer to that question. Do they care enough, or are they waiting to see the outcome before they bother to answering such a tricky question? Ooh,
Hypothetically. All right. So I just want to quibble because the whereas sort of sets up the conditions under which the thing was conceived.
True enough, and it's
It
not
doesn't
actually
necessarily-
been adjudicated.
Well, and
Like
it
it's
does,
not
and
been
it
brought
doesn't.
forth
It
in
is.
court
It
yet.
is not the well, and the whereas is just a setup. It is not an operational clause,
Exactly.
right? So it really doesn't matter why we did it, but as a result of because a long time ago we thought that God was in charge, so we said we have all these things.
Yeah, but I mean, can't we just get rid of it then if it's non-consequential?
Well, it's still it's the historical connector.
Well, we keep the historical document as like
No, it's just the
1.0, and then on 2.0 we just not have that.
Or you just go, the whereases are just for context.
I guess for as okay, fair. That will definitely be able to date that document. Fair.
Yep.
All right.
Right.
Until a new and improved one could actually be made. It could.
Yeah,
be.
good one.
It could
Yeah,
be.
it could be. So I think that probably we should vote.
Yes. Oh,
All those in
please
favor?
do. I think voting is the best thing we can do until I can conceive of something better. Please vote. Please vote. Look, he's prepping for the next rule.
All
We got
right.
minutes yet.
Yeah, apparently the Hook and Ladder Geek Hour is live now, but it's us.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
That's okay. They're good.
Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in then.
We still have like 7 minutes.
Oh, but is this what we're broadcasting though?
No, I clicked on something and it's not showing.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually we're still
It's
going.
still us? We're still live?
It's still us.
Oh, well, that's good. We're not quite off yet. No, we're always off. We're not quite closed out the show yet.
Yeah. But I just wanted to sort of guide us gently towards the.
Please vote. I mean, that's how I opened, and I did suggest that would be the primary takeaway from today is vote. Damn
Yeah,
it.
many of you have voted already.
Yeah, cool.
Good job. How to not miss it. I mean, I know I'll be real sad if I'm on my way to the. I think I voted at the Buddhist temple.
Nice.
None of the polling stations are in schools this year.
Oh, that seems smart because
All things considered, yeah.
children can't be vaccinated.
Right.
So I don't want to leave my germs behind in the gymnasia.
Correct. Yeah, so that's good. It's kind of unfortunate because I think kids need to see people voting because it sets up the expectation that voting is
Sit down
important.
and watch the news with your kids.
Yep, that's what I did. Boy, did I make some angry kids.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean I can't vote? I know more about this than blah, 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 blah. Yep, you do.
Your average high schooler knows way more about today's issues.
And by the time that you get through the constitutional challenge that says that the Elections Act is not a reasonable restriction under the charter,
That's a good one.
you will be over 18 and able to vote, and it won't matter. It will matter for somebody, but your case will probably be thrown out because you are no longer an appropriate subject for that case.
What you need is siblings 2 years younger than you, and you want to fight on their behalf.
Yep. Yeah. So and that's what democracy is about. I guess is about fighting to vote.
People do die for democracy.
Yep. Yeah, and we're not talking like World War II. They died so that we could have these freedoms, which I think is probably like an overstated crock.
A little bit.
Or even World War I died so that we could have these freedoms.
That was totally no.
still
That
still
one's
an
totally
overstated
Imperial
crock.
Beans. Yeah.
Imperial beans. Nice.
Yes. Good one.
Imperial beans. So, but
I
still,
mean, coffee and sugar, really.
generally, it's kind of true. Like we have these this freedom to choose who gets to be nominally in charge, and along with that freedom comes the right and obligation to do the thing. Like I have the right to vote, but it comes with the commensurate responsibility to vote.
Please vote. It's important. It costs you nothing legally, just your own free time, because your job has to give you 3 hours.
Yep.
Mine says go at your lunchtime, and I'm like, totally okay. I live in Lethbridge.
Yep. But if you lived somewhere where the nearest polling station was a long way,
a horse ride away, and yeah, there was no way.
Yes.
That's craziness. I don't know what else I've got for you guys today.
Yeah. So I don't know how many more ways I could say
Proportional government.
vote.
We could quickly throw that on there.
Proportional. Okay.
If we took the total percentage of votes per party and then gave that percentage of seats to that party in our current seating setup in government.
That'd be great. You can pick which ones you pull, but it has to be from the pool of people who are running.
Yeah, like you have to field candidates.
We do all the same things we do now.
And exactly like now when you vote, but then out of that pool of people, we fill the seats.
That sounds great.
Because that way we don't have to run a by-election when some party's leader doesn't get elected in their riding. Doesn't matter. The percentage of the seats represents that amount
And then
of
you can-
riding, and then
and if you
slap in
choose
your
to
leader. If you think your
do
leader
the
deserves
thing.
that seat, he does the thing. I think that
Exactly.
would work best. And it would accomplish more what people think our government does already anyway. Right? Our government doesn't do that kind of representation, but this way it would and still attain maybe a sense of national focus at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be great. Direct democracy, not so much. Like
I mean-
everybody gets to vote on everything.
Like I like direct democracy if like your total unit size is fewer than 200 members.
That works.
Because then like you've got a
I've been to board meetings.
there we go. Direct democracy does have some application. I don't think that the member nation Canada, if we all paused and waited for the Newfoundland vote to start, finish, and then finish the BC vote, that's paralyzed vote day every day we vote.
So there's that. Yeah.
Not that the vote wouldn't leak.
Leaky votes.
Well, I mean,
a leaky vote. Yeah.
First, you can't implement that kind of democracy without this level of technology. But second, that allows the hacking, and then the release of the early votes in Halifax might affect the outcomes. In
And we
British
had that
Columbia.
problem with like the law that says you couldn't leak what the election
News,
results.
yeah,
News.
exactly.
Yeah. So that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back in a fortnight to do.
Something
Not the
else?
game. We're going to talk about something else. If you have some great ideas, you can tweet us. How did you get there? YQL,
Yeah.
but just the letters
HDYTG.
HDYTG YQL.
YQL.
On the Twitters
Like,
or
just follow us. I would love
follow
to
us.
break 10.
Or hit us up on my Facebook or Jeff's Facebook or
I don't
Jess
look like me on
FM.
Facebook. I look like Captain Canuck on Facebook.
And if you got some ideas, we'll float those out. So in the meantime and in between time, we'll hope you have a ring-a-ding-dong dandy. Thanks for tuning in
Malfunction at the junction. Thank
So-
you for tuning in.
and vote.